directors be like, moan louder, moan louder. And I'm like, I don't want to moan louder. Like, I'm just moaning how I moan.
I'm wearing that badge of honor very proudly right now.
We just have so much fun, you know, playing together.
So Eric was like, well, you know, you could play the tambourine. And I said, I'm not playing the tambourine.
I love the love. Here for the love.
I need to be outside. That's my office.
And really, your level of professionalism and streamlined is just it's really should be applauded. You've done a great thing. Like, this is really, I looked at some of your previous interviews and really exceptional. I'm happy to be a part of the legacy you're building with Eclectic Arts.
Same.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. I'm Mark Sugiyama from Eclectic Arts, based here in Seattle, Washington, in the United States of America. And thank you so much for joining me on this April 1st, 2022, a new month. And happy Friday for those out there who are starting their weekend. And for those that have unconventional schedules, hopefully you get a day off at some point in the next, 6 or 7 days. And as always, I have a few things that I'd like to go over that are coming up. Starting with tomorrow, Saturday, the 2nd of April at 3 p.m. Pacific, I have Hannah Gray scheduled to join me. She had to reschedule earlier this week to the weekend, so looking forward to talking with her. And then also on Sunday, the 3rd of April, I have Chains Over Razor scheduled to join me at noon Pacific time. They're based out of Chicago, so it'll be 2 p.m. for them. And I have some other live streams that I kind of teased on my social media that are in the works, and actually one of them just texted me tonight. So I'm hoping these will happen. But if you'd like to know more about what's coming up specifically when they are confirmed, please follow me as Eclectic Arts Media, one word, on Instagram. That's where I post everything first. And then some of that information migrates over to the other social media platforms, the kind of usual suspects. If this is your first time joining me on my YouTube channel, if you could do me a huge favor and hit that subscribe button and also the notification bell, I greatly appreciate that. And if you're on the Twitch side of things, if you could follow me over there, I just recently kind of went through and kind of updated my Twitch. I will try to follow you back over there because that's where I started with all this virtual work almost 2 years ago during the heart of the pandemic on the Alice virtual tour. And if you're really impressed to just enjoy what I'm doing on my channel, especially if you have a chance to look at it later with all the work that I've been doing, and you would like to support it, this platform that I use costs me money every month. So I am always grateful and appreciative of any kind of tips or donations that you can make. The PayPal me link is through every video description that I have on YouTube. So if you're just want to click on the hyperlink and throw a couple bucks my way, I greatly appreciate that. And yeah, I love doing these. And now with everything, these two worlds are colliding between virtual and in person. So I'm kind of doing everything. And next week I'll be back to being theater man because I've got a lot of plays coming up on Wednesday, Thursday, and Saturday. I've got a musical on next Friday, a week from today. My next concert that I'll be shooting and reviewing, I think, is about 2 weeks from today. And just a shameless plug, the Seattle Jewish Film Festival is still going on. It's got another week to go. I've gone through about 3 or 4 films from them. They do have a virtual option for those that are here in the United States. So some of the films are available virtually to check out. I've got a shorts block from them as well to look at. And if you happen to have access to HBO Max, they just debuted a limited series yesterday called Julia, based on Julia Child, which was amazing. It's they dropped 3 episodes yesterday, and there'll be one every week until they hit the 8th episode. being press media. I was lucky enough to see all 8 already. And it's just incredibly rich. And if you happen to be a Frasier fan, the sitcom from the 90s, they have 2 cast members, David Hyde Pierce and Bebe Neuwirth, are also in the cast of Julia. So that's a shameless plug from me that series is really, really good. I was just bowled over by it. So yeah, I'm glad to be here. And again, I've got live streams tomorrow and Sunday. So one thing that you can kind of maybe see in my background, which is not because of tonight, it's actually been up prior to tonight, is this film back here. And that was one of the earliest films that I actually reviewed when I started doing this stuff back in the pandemic in 2020. So I've not been a film reviewer prior to the pandemic. So it's really kind of odd that I started doing these virtual live streams and I started doing film work during the pandemic. But I'm really, really grateful because it's opened up so many other doors for me. And I'm really excited about my guest tonight because she is one of the cast members from this film. So let's get to things. My guest today is a multi-talented artist, originally from Kazakhstan. Her role in the period action film Tomiris gained her many positive notices around the world. I definitely noticed her wonderful work in there. Please welcome to the Eclectic Arts virtual studio, AIZHAN LIGG.
Hi.
Hi, AIZHAN. How are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for taking the time. I really, really appreciate this. I get to be a fanboy today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. And I want to say hi to those that are joining us. And Ove, good to see you. It must be kind of, maybe 6 a.m. over in Norway. Ove, someone who's been a strong supporter of my channel. So that's great that he's checking things out. And I see he put Frasier rule. So yeah, I love the show Frasier. So if you want to check out Julia on HBO Max, you can do so. So AIZHAN, let's kind of start with Tomiris for sure. And then I want to talk about everything else because you have a lot of stuff in your background that's really, really fascinating to me. So let's just kind of go from the beginning. How did you get involved with that film?
I auditioned for it. They announced the national/international search for the leads for the film. And my mom literally sent me the news. She sent me the link about the announcement and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to be in this film. And then I submitted all of my materials and my reels, and then I auditioned and I got callbacks and then another callback and then a screen test and then I got it.
Wow. So what was that time period like? Were we talking about like a month, weeks, couple months?
Oh no, I think I submitted like May and I had an audition in like August, and then the callbacks were in September. There were a few of them. Yeah, and then I got confirmed in November. So that's bad.
So I've had the pleasure of having some wonderful directors, producers, actors on doing the live streams that I've done. What was that? Are you somebody that it's easy for you to wait that long to see if you got a role in a film like this? Are you like really anxious?
Absolutely not. I was nerve-wracked but mainly because I really, really wanted it. I really wanted this part because it's so close and personal. And I've been obsessed with this story since I was a little girl. And when I read Herodotus for the very first time, and I came across a chapter about Scythians and my people basically, and I found Tomiris' story and Savermat's story. And I was just, ever since then, I've dreamed of watching a film about these amazing people, these women. And then it never happened. And this was the very first time this story is being told on the big screen. And I mean, of course, I was a nerve-wrack.
Okay. Yeah. I know, like for myself, I'm not an actor whatsoever, but if I was in that position, I would be so antsy because I'd be like, I want to know now. Do I have it? Do I have it? And,
yeah. I was a little annoying. I remember calling the casting, just, what is it? Like, I'll call you. I'm like, okay.
Man. So once you got the good news that you had been cast,
yeah.
Walk me through that timeline. So when did things start shooting? When did you shoot? Did you have training prior to work on the fight scenes, all this kind of thing? What's the background here?
Yeah, so I got confirmed in November, and then they flew me in February, and I started training, and then we started shooting in March. We started shooting first interior shots on a studio lot, And then in April, we moved out to the location. We shot a lot of those exterior shots. The location was in Southeast China. Oh, I'm sorry, Southeast Kazakhstan on the border with China. And then we shot in another part of Southeast Kazakhstan later. And yeah, there was like, we kept changing locations, but it was incredible. I think we wrapped everything up like in September. We wrapped the principal photography in my role specifically in like July, but then they brought me back in September for reshoots. Yeah, and so September, that was a hard wrap on everybody and on everything.
Okay, so that's quite a few months of, like you said, from February to the callback, or not the callback, the reshoots, and then everything was completely done in September.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the training, so were you someone that already had some fight choreography in your background for other projects, or was this brand new to you? Or are you a physical person, like to be outdoors and doing physical things?
Yeah, I think that's why they cast me, because I did have training with swords. Like I've already been really good with swords, but they made me so much better. But I had to train like archery from scratch. I've been riding horses though before that, but this was a completely different story. I thought it's like, I mean, I'm riding, whatever. But this I had to ride with no stirrups and, and jump on and off the horse. Jump off the horse while the horse is running and hang on the side of the horse and shoot bow and arrows. I'm like, oh, that was something.
Wow. So for people that haven't seen the film, I'm trying not to spoil it for you, but I don't think I'm spoiling too much. What you're talking about, AIZHAN, when your character is shooting arrows from the horse, was most of that you, or did they have a stunt double at some point doing some of it too?
No, I did that. 4 takes of that I did. And we had a little accident on the second take. On the third take. It was fascinating. We had to do 4 takes. And I had to do it myself because I really got into it. The stunt double was ready. She was dressed and ready. But I was like, I mean, she did it. And I mean, I should be able to do it. And I train, I've trained for this and I want to do it. And I remember we did the first take and our stunt choreographer, our action director walks to me and he was like, well, you're like one of the most badass warriors in this film. I'm like, yeah. He's like, well, you can't look scared. I'm like, what do you mean? And he showed me playback and I'm just like, ah! Like my face is, I'm so scared. My eyes are this huge. I'm like, all right, I'll compose myself. Then we did a second one. And then the second one, he walks back to me again. I'm like, oops, what did I do this time? He was like, well, there's a target, right? So I'm like, yeah, so you follow the target, because I was just like smashing. Like whatever the horse takes me, I'm like shooting. I'm like, okay. So we did the third time. And I thought I did everything perfect. Like I was following the target. I was like looking as badass. And then at the end, our horse master, he wasn't able to stop the horse. The horse kept running and I'm just hanging. I don't see where the horse is running. And then the horse like hit me on something like my back. And I was like, I felt so much pain and I made myself fall. So that was the way I was hanging on it. I wasn't, I wasn't like tied up to a horse because that's unsafe. So you have to like just hold yourself with your core strength, literally. So it's in case there isn't something, you easily like get out of the way and just roll out. And that was what I did. And everyone thought I fell, but I didn't. Like I fell on purpose. But I'm like in the ground with my face in dirt because it's painful. And I'm just trying to assess the damage internally. Just like not looking at it, but like trying to feel whether everything is fine or not. Meanwhile, we had 400 extras on set that day. So, and I'm not seeing, everyone started running towards me to see what's going on, right? Then our crew is trying to stop them. And then, oh my God, our first AD, she later told me she thought I would be like paralyzed because the impact was really bad. Like it was crazy. It was like it looked like, the makeup artist told me it looked like I wasn't a real person, like I was a doll, like I was a sack or something, like the way I bounced. And then I was like, I stood up, like I need to see playback. And the director was like, yeah, sure. I went to see a playback, and there was on one of the cameras, we had 3 cameras shooting at the same time. And one of the cameras, I don't remember, I think it was camera B, it didn't have focus. And the director like got really angry at them. And then he was like, well, let the stunt double go. I'm like, no, I'm going to do it. He was like, no. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it. I'm like, but everyone messes up this time. So yeah, and I did it for the 4th time. And that's the one that ended up being in the movie.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And that's incredible that you did those 4 takes. The 3rd take, could have been seriously injured.
Yeah. Well, thank you.
And then, kudos to you saying, no, I'm going to get back up there and let's do the 4th take. I don't want the stunt double getting in here. I'm already dirty. I might as well get up there and do it. And that's the one that they used.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I know what I'm going to be watching later tonight. I'm going to be rewatching it. Now I have this backstory, like what's going on to get that scene. I've mentioned this in other live streams that I've done that when I'm totally dating myself, but like when Laserdisc came out and then eventually DVDs and that kind of thing, I'm the special features guy. I'm one of those people. I love seeing the behind the scenes of how movies are made and the interviews and everything. So I'm so grateful that you're taking time to talk to me about this film and also everything else that you had going on. But so I'm also curious, like you said, you had a swords fighting background already before you were in this film. Were there any parts of shooting this film from a fight choreography standpoint that were really, really difficult for you, or things that were a little bit more challenging, even though you had a background already?
Yes. I would say a lot of them, but the most difficult was, I think, the very final battle sequence. I'm gonna try not to spoil it, but the very final battle sequence. So why it was difficult, because we were already crunched on time. It was towards the end of the production, and we were really squeezed on time. So we had to get all of those out of the way within one day. And not only that, there were other things that we had to shoot that day too. So, and our director likes to do long takes. And I'm supposed to fight 10 people in that sequence. And so each take, it's 10 people fighting 10 people. I was just dying after a few takes. I was dying. And I remember I would just, between the takes, I would just lay on the bench. I don't remember what I laid on. I would lay on something on the bench, I think. And I was just like I'm dead, just like I'm dead. I'm not moving anything, not even a facial muscle, nothing. And then back to it. And I remember there was camera reset. I'm like, oh my God, there's gonna be 24 more takes or a different angle now. And, so yeah, that was the hardest physically, because it was a very complicated choreo. It was a lot of people that I had to fight, and the fights weren't short. They weren't just and I'm so grateful to our stunt team that they made my characters' fight sequences long, more complicated choreos. I was so grateful because it's so fun and so interesting, instead of doing bam bam 2 shots. But then it backfired at me. I have this long choreo and I had to do it all. Meanwhile, others just strike someone one time and he's dead. And I'm just wow. Really long time. But it was fun. Another one, it was another battle earlier in the film where there was a lot of dirt. There was wind that day, and there was a lot of dirt in the air, but also the director wanted to see the dirt flying in the air in the frame, right? Like, sand, dirt. And then so they had a machine that was making it, go rampage, and it was too much. The director sees it in the playback, and she just goes on the radio and says it's too much. They try to adjust it, still too much. Try to adjust, still too much. Because by that time we moved to like a close up, and then so they just got rid of the machine, and someone from the crew tried to just manually throw it, and the director was like, that one, like, this is awesome, whatever you did, keep doing that. And he was like, oh, and now each time, and I'm like, and he's right here in front of the camera, and I'm here supposed to be badass killing someone with 2 swords, and I see him, he's like, and I'm just like, I can't. I was like so hard not to laugh. And then this thing gets into my mouth, and I'm just like, I'm trying to kill this guy with 2 swords, looking super angry. And this guy's here. He was so like trying not to overdo it because it's been going for a long time. The director wasn't happy with how much sand was coming in. He was just like, his hands were shaking and everything, and I was just like trying not to laugh. The sand and the dirt was in my mouth, but I'm just like, I'm just gonna go for it.
Oh my gosh, the again, the movie magic, the things that it takes to finally get what the director was happy with the amount of sand, had to keep getting less, to eventually you manually have somebody throwing it on you. And then you got to be in the midst of being badass and killing somebody and not just seeing this guy off camera doing this to you. Oh my God. And like you said earlier too, is that that you had long sequences, so you had to physically just keep getting back in there, keep doing it. It's like, oh my gosh. And I'm also curious, like the wardrobe that you were wearing, was that pretty heavy on top of all the stuff that you're doing as well?
It was pretty heavy. It wasn't too heavy, but it was, especially the last battle wardrobe, the very final one. And we were shooting that one. It was July, and it was extremely hot, and it was a lot of layers, and then that armoring, so it was pretty heavy and very hot. The other ones that we were shooting in April, the weather was, much more chill, and then the wardrobe wasn't that heavy. But then when my character matured, she had to have this armor and stuff, and then it's July, so it was it's not a good combo.
Of course, I mean, it's perfect. When you have the most gear on you, it has to be the hottest.
Yeah, it has to be the hottest time of the year. Yeah.
And at that point, it's really probably not a lot of acting that you're tired or struggling.
Oh yeah, it was for real. It was real. My struggle was real for sure.
Oh my gosh. I'm curious too, when you got a chance to finally see like the final version of the film, what did you think of the film, but also what did you think of your scenes, of like what actually ended up in the final edit?
Oh my God, there's a funny story about that too, because I have seen the final cut. I was the last person to see the final cut because it the first time it was shown, and they were very adamant about the security because with hacking and whatnot. So they couldn't send it to me because I was filming in Mexico when the film was coming out officially in Kazakhstan, and I couldn't be at the premiere or they like all of those fun tours that they did like all over Kazakhstan with the film, and it's everywhere, like on Instagram, on social media, people are tagging me. They're talking about the plot, about the film, about the scenes. They already have the favorite scene with me from the film, and I still haven't seen the film, and this is going on, and I'm just nice. And people were even like putting in the stories in the theaters. They were like, that's how I've been watching the films, like from people's stories, because they would be tagging me in the theaters. And I'm like, oh man, this was late September. And so I haven't watched the whole film until November when they brought it to, when I finally watched it. I'm telling you, I was the last one to see it. My mom went to the official premiere. My friends, my family went to the premiere and they watched it. Except me.
Oh my gosh, that you've got great stories about this. And in this particular case, that's kind of an unfortunate story, that you're on location somewhere else and you didn't get to partake in the, the big premiere and the whole tour that they're doing to promote it and all the screenings and everything. But that's funny that people were tagging you through social media and about here's a clip from it, or here's what I liked about it. And you're like, I still haven't seen the thing yet.
I know. I'm like, thank you, but I still haven't seen the film.
Yeah, it's like, I'll let you know if I agree with you, if that's the best scene.
Yeah, I'll let you know maybe 2 months. Get back to me in 2 months.
So that kind of begs the question. So after you did get a chance to finally see it after everybody else, like you said, you're like the last person to finally see the film. What did you think?
I loved it. I mean, as per usual, I found like a lot of, like, not a lot, but some of my scenes were cut out, but it made sense in the storyline. But I really liked it. It was so cinematic. It was beautiful. The music, oh my God, the music they put, the scores they wrote, the soundtrack was phenomenal. I loved it. So beautiful. I think the editors did an amazing job with color correction, and everything looked fantastic, and all the rest of the cast. And I mean, I've been in awe of our costume department every day on set, but when I actually saw it on the screen, and I know how much work they put in. They made 18,000 costume pieces from scratch. So there were 18,000 pieces from scratch for this movie, and those people just incredible. And it made so much sense. It looked legit, like it's from historically authentic and right. And I remember we had a whole historical consultant team attached to the movie, but the one of them will always be on the set. And I remember he would annoy sometimes, like, our crew, like specifically like our makeup artists or like our costume designers, because he would come out, was like, these buttons don't look right, or so this here, or like her teeth are too white, or something like that, And then I was like, and they will have to fix it or something, but they would get annoyed. But then I'm like, when I watched the whole film, I was like, yeah, I'm so happy everyone did their job, and it ended up being such a beautiful product of love and commitment, and everyone's work, amazing work ethics that everyone put in.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. When I got a chance to review it back in 2020, that I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know anything, so I went completely in. I went to that film fresh, and I remember just thinking, man, it's one of those dramatic, epic, like you said, the time and effort put into the costumes and everything else, but it's also really empowering, particularly for women, I would say, for people that are trying to, it's kind of the David and Goliath concept of, standing up for yourself, and in this case for people, country. And it was just like, wow, this is like, that's why I'm like, I want to talk to people from this film. And then it took me a while to, and you kind of already noticed that, that I've had Almira on twice. But it took me a while to figure out, how do I get these people? Because I was hitting a bunch of roadblocks, and I could tell the story too. I think, and people out there that are watching this now or watching this later might laugh at me. But when I reached out to AIZHAN, that I mistakenly assumed, because of the process it took to get Almira, that you were in Kazakhstan for one, two, that English would be like a second language, third language, fourth language, something like that. And so I was laying out like how I did her interviews so that AIZHAN, if she's decided to say yes, would feel comfortable about it. And you're like, I'm in LA.
Well, English is my second language. I've just been here for a while. I went to school. I went to UCLA, and I've been here for a minute. It's gonna be 10 years this May, so I'm gonna celebrate my anniversary.
But let that be a lesson to you folks, because it's a lesson that I learned. Don't make assumptions about people. It's one of those things I just like.
Assumptions for nothing. People make assumptions that are. We're not gonna bring Borat up. How about that?
There we go. Yeah, it's just one of those moments for me when I saw your reply. I just wanted to smack my forehead. It's like, oh my gosh, am I really that dumb? But I'm also curious. So let's not only about that film, but so when did you start acting? When did this seed start? When you're like young? Was it later in life?
It was later in life, definitely. I started acting probably like 7 to 8 years ago. Like for real. Really pursuing it, I would say. Yeah, so much later in life. But I've been on stage since I was 8 years old, because I've been dancing since I was 8. So I'm familiar with the concept, but it's so much different, I know. But at least like I didn't have the stage fright. And when I started doing acting, I've done a lot of theater first. I started with theater, and I did theater first. I did take a lot of electives while I was at UCLA. I did take a lot of electives at UCLA TFT school, and that helped me a lot. And that's how I got my first agent, I think. Yeah, and I just fell in love with the process of developing a character, creating the character, and I just love it. It's incredible how can you just make a story, make a person from scratch, like write a backstory, fill all the blanks and just become this someone else. And it's just so beautiful, and how many different routes you can go depending on what you personally can bring to the table. It's just fascinating.
Awesome. So it sounds like with your like you said, with a dance background when you're young, and then having a theater background, and then doing film and television camera type work. Do you have an area that you prefer? Like, would you like to go back on stage? Do you like doing films instead, or you like both? Like it all?
I would love to do both. I love theater. I admire theater, and especially musicals, because I sing too, and I've done musicals. It's like a whole completely different, I don't know, it's like in the parallel universe. The emotions you get from it, the feedback, it's just pure joy. But it's so much work. It's so much work. It consumes you. There is no way to do anything else. Like when you do a play, then you can do something else at the same time. You can still work and, work on another character at the same time. What if you were doing a musical, especially when, like I did a chorus line and I played Cassie, and I had to, sort of incredibly complicated dance routines that you have to learn. Then you have a lot of dialogues and monologues, and you have a solo that's all three of them: the song and the choreo and the acting. There's like, how long is this? I think it's like 13 minutes solo. So it's like it's a show within a show. That one, there is no way you can do something else at the same time. It consumes you completely. But I love roles like that, and I would love to be back on stage. I haven't done that in a while, but I would love to do that.
Okay, that's amazing. And I started reviewing on the Broadway at the Paramount, so that the tours that tour America. So when all the big ones come to town to Seattle, then I'm there. That's why I'll be there next Friday. Actually, that's a week from today for Beautiful, the Carole King musical that's coming to town.
Nah.
So I've been really, it's been a learning process for me. So I'm not someone who was like, grew up with musicals and loved them and that kind of thing. It wasn't until I actually wanted to do an interview with somebody locally here at when one of those musicals was coming to town, that they said, well, why don't you stay and watch the show? I was like, oh, that'd be awesome. I'd love to stay and watch the show. And then kind of got good to me. And so then I said, can I come to the next one? Can I come to the next one? And do reviews and all that kind of thing. And the stories that I've heard, like I know Eva Tavares, who had done the role of Christine Daae in Phantom, when it was touring for 2 years, she was in that lead role. And just hearing, like what you just described, there's all these different parts from, and particularly like in what you mentioned, though, because you got dance things, and they have numbers, but the singing and the acting and the cues and where you're supposed to be and when you come on and go off, and then plus you're on the road in that case, so you're there for maybe a week, then you go to the next city. It's like that's a lot.
It is.
Oh my gosh. So, and maybe you can't do this, but if you had to pick between, like, you know, the acting, the dancing, and the singing, which one would be the one you'd go to the desert island with?
Acting, dancing, or singing? Acting for sure. Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned that you haven't had a chance to be back on stage in a while, but you'd love to. So what are the other projects? What can you tell people out there that maybe are going to watch Tomiris after this, but then they also want to know what else you've been in that they have access to, either here in America or just around the world?
I have a miniseries coming out titled Immortal Hands. They're going to come out later this year. It's a action comedy. The lead, my character name is Reiki, and it's shot it's sort of a fusion of old school Kung Fu with Highlander. So it's an interesting concept. I, again, haven't seen the final cut, so I'm going to be watching it with you when it comes out. But yeah, it was a fun process shooting it.
Okay, and now, so was this something you did like last year, recently, like right now, or?
I've shot it last year in 2021. Yeah, it was I think from February to July. Yeah.
Okay. See, and we've already kind of talked about this earlier, but that's one of the other things I've learned from talking to so many guests in the industry about that timeline of like when you're actually shooting something, and then when it comes out, sometimes it's realistic, and sometimes it's years before that thing hits. That you may have done 20 other projects already, like, oh, that one's finally out.
Yeah, I know. That happens a lot in the industry.
Yeah. But what are some other things besides that, like maybe older things like you did before Tomiris or things you did after it? What else have you that you've worked on?
I did another one. It's in Russian and Kazakh. It's a comedy that I shot in Mexico. It's called Bazar Zhokh Mexico, but I'm sure everyone in Kazakhstan already watched it. It's been in theaters for so long. It was crazy. They kept extending it because the people wanted to see it.
Well,
I've been to some other projects and films, and I had some small parts. I had a tiny part in a short film called Two Distant Strangers that we shot during pandemic in 2020. And it won Oscars for the best short live action in 2021. And I had a bunch of, I did some other things that I didn't like the outcome, so I don't like to talk about them. I pretend they didn't happen. but yeah, and I had like small roles in, the Baywatch. I had a tiny role in Baywatch with The Rock.
When you're talking about, there's some project you're like, I just kind of want to forget about those.
Yeah, I'm just like, that never happened.
There's a wonderful actress up in Canada who was talking about, we were getting into this whole thing about, like she was saying, the process on a project versus the product are two different things, because you might have a really great cast and great people, and then you see the end and you're like, oh, that's not so good, or vice versa. might have been a really tough, group of people to get along with, but the project was really good. And then she was saying, and if neither of those are very good, then you just take it off your resume and move on to the next thing.
I know, right?
Oh my gosh. And I see Ove's talking about that you ooze positive, you have a positive aura and glow.
Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. Thank you.
Yeah. And I would agree with that too. You definitely, I'm an energy person. I've talked about this a lot during my live streams, that I love people that have a positive, especially an artistic energy. And you've got it in spades. So it's,
thank you.
It's absolutely coming through. And I see Ove's asking about what does your first name mean? Is there a meaning to your first name?
Yes, it means moon soul. I means moon, Jean means soul. And my older sister's name, her name is Guljan, which means flower soul. But I think moon soul is so much cooler. It's so much more cool than a flower soul.
Wow, that's
she's watching.
that's really yeah, beautiful name. It's yeah, I'm writing this down. Okay. Wow. So where are we now? So are there some other projects that you're trying to work on besides the one that you did last year? Are you doing a lot of auditions and just kind of seeing what your agent throws your way and looking at scripts, or are you kind of taking a break? Where are we with things right in 2022?
I am auditioning right now. Yeah, working hard. I will be filming in Seattle soon this year. It's an action drama titled In the Night. So I'll be filming that. And I am producing my first short live action. So I'm working on that. So it's a lot of work. But I am honestly, this is my first time producing something, and I am in the film too. So I'm acting in it, and I'm enjoying every moment of it. I have much more respect now for the producers, even more respect than I had before, because it's such a hard job. But I'm enjoying having the control, like having the creative control, and just creating the character the way I see fit, the way I see her, and exploring, just playing with it, and just exploring different options, and just, it's so amazing, honestly. And it's such a meaningful a film too, because it's a domestic violence themed Kafkaesque drama executed David Cronenberg style. So I'm super excited. It's something that never been done before. So I am excited. It's a genre bending film for sure.
Wow, now you got me super curious. And now I'll have to wait X amount of months or whatever, but that's okay. I can be patient. That's so for people that aren't too familiar, and obviously, and if you watch any film or any kind of thing on television, you're going to see executive producer, associate producer, producer. What is the role? Like you just said, it's the first time producing. What is the role of the producer for in this particular case for you?
Oh, well, it's working on financing, finding the funds, working on getting the team together, script rewrites, organizing table reads, and developing the characters, analyzing the story and seeing whether there are some gaps and we need to fill it. Like, I kept rereading the script and rereading the script and reading the script. I understood that we're missing like a character. We need one more character here, because there's like a gap that I couldn't understand how to fill. And I realized that we just need to introduce one more character here. And then everything fell into place when we did that, and it just made so much sense. And then another time when we were again going through script rewrites, and we were just reading it with, I have two more producers on the project, and we were just trying to stand, because I was like, oh, I'm not sure about this dialogue. Oh, I'm not sure about that. This doesn't feel right. Or another thing like felt awesome when you're reading it, but and I was like, let's do a table read. We need to do a table read, and we organized a table read. We had we had some amazingly talented actors, thank God, who agreed to be at our table read. And then after we all read it, so many things either started to make sense. The dialogue I felt weird about, and I was like, no. But when we were reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, this makes perfect sense now. Or another thing now completely should be scratched off, because when I hear it now, it doesn't make any sense. And it's just fascinating. The process is fascinating.
And I'm fascinated by hearing about the process. So
we're also doing like, there's gonna be quite a lot of VFX done in this film, because there's a body horror situation. Well, David Cronenberg style. That's what we're going for. So we're working with VFX artists, and we did the body scan, like of my body, to start to create something.
Wow, this again, this sounds really, really exciting. I can tell how excited you are about the project. So sure, you can't wait till you get the whole thing, you know, in the can and out there, and either hitting the film festivals or getting distribution for it, or both, you know, and that kind of thing. And
I'm going to Cannes this year, first time in my life, and very excited.
That'll be exciting. I still haven't had a chance. Well, I shouldn't say that. I mean, now that we have some in-person stuff happening here in Seattle, so like the Seattle International Film Festival starts in April, and last year I had to do everything virtual, but this year I know they have some of it. I can go to a theater and be around other people.
Yes, I know.
And take it in and all that kind of thing. So that'll be fun. And I have no idea how this works, but whenever you're up here shooting in Seattle, it'd be wonderful. I could get a chance to even just be around that.
Yeah.
Or just meet you somewhere or something. I don't know, just to kind of, I've said this before, and it still hasn't happened, if you can believe this, that I've done over 200 live stream interviews since the pandemic started. I have not met a guest in person that I interviewed, and I thought, well, probably like maybe a local musician, someone that I never, you know, I knew about them, but I never actually met them or never saw them play. It hasn't happened yet. So kind of like, who's it gonna be? You know, one of the dancers I interviewed, or a band that comes to town? It hasn't happened yet. So I'm like, well, maybe it'll be you. Yeah, when are you going to be shooting in Seattle? What time frame are we talking? In the summer?
I think so. I don't have the exact dates yet, but I think it's summer. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll definitely keep in touch with you and just kind of see how things line up. So I think I don't want to get into like what happened at the Oscars, because that's been all over social media and everyone's got their opinion. And then there's new stuff today, you know, of him, you know, stepping down and all that kind of thing. So being in the industry, were you watching the awards?
Of course I was. I always watch.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I have never been to the actual Oscars yet. I've been to the Golden Globes, to the actual Golden Globes when Tomiris was being promoted, because we've shown it was brought for Golden Globes, and that's how I saw it for the very first time, because we were showing it for the HFPA voting members. That's how I saw it for the very first time. But yeah, honestly, I remember when we were watching this last Sunday, we watched it this producer's house. She's producer and director, and we had a bunch of people from the industry there, and we were all watching, and we sort of got divided into people who thought it was staged and people who didn't. Like, I didn't think it was staged, right? But some people really thought it was staged, and then after that, when we got over that, we again did a split into some people thinking that it was the right thing to do, you know, defending your wife, and other people thinking that it was completely wrong, and people in the middle who weren't sure, so it was sort of wrong but not. I don't know, honestly. I personally think that's crazy that you can assault someone in the live TV and then go free, sit in the VIP chair. No one arrests you. I'm not even talking about escorting you out, but like, you were sitting there and then you get an Oscar and then 10-minute standing ovation. I just don't know. That just like, I want that kind of fame. Being able to do that and just be free and enjoy your Oscar at the same time. It's just fascinating. Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I just glimpsed, I didn't have time to read news today, but I glimpsed that he resigned from the Academy, right? That was probably, I mean, that was definitely a right thing to do, but I just don't know. I don't know. Like in the moment, that's what I felt. That's what I felt in the moment. Later on, obviously, I think that he just, you know, went in the heat of passion. But still, I mean.
Yeah, no, your reaction when it happened live and your kind of assessment of it is pretty much what I share. And I think everywhere around the world on Monday, if you're at work, whatever you're doing, like when I was on my day job, everyone's talking about, did you watch last night or did you hear what happened? And yeah, everyone's got different kind of takes on it and all that kind of thing. It's all over social media. But like I had mentioned to people at work, it was like during my day job, it's like they're going to have to now look at security for future anything of that stature of award show of like, why do you let anyone get up there at all? You're assuming they have good intentions.
Yeah. The thing is, like, I mean, I get it was a bad joke, but he could have put him in place verbally, right? He could have been on the stage, like, snatch the mic and say something, you know? But, like, insulting someone, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know. And it's just like the other thing I thought about, because I was at the actual Golden Globes and I always watch Golden Globes and I'm a huge fan of Ricky Gervais. And the year when I was at the Golden Globes, it was 2020. It was the year before everything bad happened, right? So it was like the last, it was early January, so everyone was the pandemic wasn't real yet. So we were Ricky Gervais was hosting for the 4th time now already. Was hosting the Golden Globes, and he's amazing. He's super talented, but he's super offensive. He's super offensive. His jokes are super offensive to like everybody. He doesn't miss anybody. He goes like really. And I was just thinking, oh my gosh, if Ricky Gervais got punched each time he insults someone, he wouldn't have had a bone in his face left. It would have been insane. Because he insults everyone.
Yes, he does. Yeah, and that kind of brings up the whole point of some of these things, that someone like he could say something much more offensive and many other people.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, I mean, there just has to, and I'm with you. I was telling people too, like if Will had said what he said after the fact, if he had said that first from his seat when that joke happened, that would make more sense to me. It's like, no, if he gets pissed about it, he says something, and then if he doesn't like his reaction, then he gets closer, goes up to the stage, and tries to escalate. But he went from 0 to 100, and obviously bad things happened. But I think there's, with all the security that they have, and again, you've been at the Golden Globes in person, so you kind of know that they're looking out for stars that they arrive in the building and everything else. So it's like, why can't something be done there when you just it's another star, so it's okay.
Exactly. No? So it's that thing, because it's Will Smith, who can say anything to Will? It comes to that at the end of the day, Maybe someone tried to stop him when he was, sort of running on stage, but they couldn't really stop him because they were intimidated by his stature of who he is.
Yeah. It's, to me, it's no different than way back when. Remember when Kanye got there, when Taylor Swift was doing her acceptance speech at the Grammys, and he just took it over. It's like, why are you allowing this jerk to do this? It's get him off the stage, but because of who he is, the power, the influence, everything else is like, well, if she's okay with it, we'll just kind of leave it. They wouldn't allow me to do that.
The Academy said that they asked him to leave, but he refused.
Yeah.
It was just so funny when they
There's
said that. Can you please go? No. Okay.
yeah, it's like and to your exact
I want
point.
to know how that conversation went, but I think that's how it went.
Probably, or maybe there's a few expletives in there too.
It took probably 2 seconds from
Yeah.
start to finish.
I again, to your point, I was telling people at work, it's like this is how the rich people live, because you and I could never get away with something like that.
No. No.
I wouldn't be on a live stream right now. I'd be in jail. I'd be somewhere
Yeah.
trying to get bailed out or something.
It was a little surreal to watch that unfold.
Yeah, no, again, for everybody, and I don't want to spend too much time on it to give it even more press than it's already gotten, but it's just like it's so just ridiculously crazy to see that happen. And now they have to spin it. They got to spin it from all different angles of what happens, and he steps down because they probably knew there's going to be some sort of repercussion coming. So I'm going to beat them through the punch. So I'm going to step down and kind of look like I'm, remorseful and I'm better. And who knows, maybe he doesn't even feel like that. Could be his whole team telling him, this is what we're going to do, and just lay low.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, Chris is on tour right now, doing his shows and stuff. So he's got to try to deal with that elephant in the room too. Like he said in the first show, I wrote an entire show before Sunday. So I don't have anything to say about that yet, but I will eventually. So here's the 90 minutes of material that I have. Like, oh gosh.
I can't wait how he's gonna address that in his show. I want to hear that.
Yeah, and it's got to be coming. I know he's coming to Seattle not until October, so maybe by that point it'll be worked into his material, maybe even earlier than that. Whenever.
I'm sure he's gonna. He can't ignore that. I mean, come on, he's gonna use it.
Yeah, for sure. And I see Ove was talking about imagine AIZHAN and Sea Lemon on a table. Oh yeah, on a fun. What he means by that is sometimes I've had a guest that I've interviewed prior come back together with people they never met, and we just kind of shoot the breeze for a while. So Sea Lemon was a musician here in Seattle that came on last Saturday, and there are similarities, Ove, that and that's a compliment. She's really smart, really funny, got a real strong insight to how she thinks and what she brings. And like, yeah, I could actually see the two of you doing a really probably getting on really well with each other. But that's getting ahead of myself. I can reach out to you about that offline and that kind of thing. I don't want to put you on the spot about that kind of stuff. So you're auditioning, you've got these projects in the works. One thing that I know that I want to mention before we kind of wrap things up is that at some point, and maybe it's currently, you have a background as an attorney. So is that what you're still doing, what you used to do?
I don't practice law full time. I still do practice law sometimes, part-time, if it's an interesting case to be involved. But I went to UCLA Law School. I've practiced law for 6 years. Yeah. So I worked primarily in the oil and gas industry, actually.
Okay. And you'll probably be pleased to know you're not the only attorney I've had on that's in the arts world.
Okay.
Yeah. Katarina Nix is a musician from Chile, and she currently works as an attorney down in Chile. Now a trial attorney. She's doing something with insurance, I want to say. And then Wade Murph is the drummer. Well, he's drumming with Doyle right now, who's from the Misfits, a punk band. And he practices law. He does a lot of entertainment copyright and things of that nature. So that's what he does when he's not on the road. So got these people that have both worlds of the high intellect and also the high artistry, and they put them together when they want to and put them separate when they want to as well.
It's funny because my legal background helped me in acting tremendously. First, because I was not afraid of any public speaking on any that kind of situation. I wasn't. And then another thing was that I was really OCD about the homework, like doing the homework, because like, you know, when you as an attorney, you write a lot, you research a lot. That's most of the time what you do. You research, and you know, write the, whether it's memo, whether it's motional or whatnot, or a contract, or for acting, that's how I approached acting. From that background, from that perspective, like every time I really research everything I can about the role. And when I first started acting, I read every single book on acting I could find, everything. And then when I like got a role, I would research everything I can about that role. It's like when I went with Sardana's character, I read every historical book, everything I could find on Savarmats and their history, and how it used to be. They used to be matriarchal. They used to be an amazing, skillful warriors. And some of the ancient Greek historians wrote that they never, they won each battle. They never lost a battle. And some of the other tribes that they would be fighting didn't even know they were women. There were so many different writings about them, which was so fascinating. So I research everything. And when I finish that, I write the backstory. And then when I write the backstory, I think about the character and myself, what I can bring to the character. But then I also think a flavor that I can add to the character that would make it more interesting and more like more multidimensional. So with Sardana, for example, I decided to add like she's a female version of Achilles from Troy, and that was like my final flavor for her.
Okay, you know, that's fascinating that basically the behavior that you developed as an attorney carried over to your approach to acting. Like, these are things I do all the homework. I want to sit there and figure out layers to add to it, because that's what you were doing there. And I've mentioned this also during my live streams, that my style of doing interviews came from a lot of my day job things that I'd done. I used to work as a teacher at one point, so I'm used to talking and being in front of people. Yeah, I've worked with a lot of nonprofits, so I'm a very empathetic person. So I've had to listen to unfortunately, some really horrible things that happen with young people, but that kind of all built into the shape of what I end up doing now and the style that I end up doing about it, because I've had people ask me about how this come to be in terms of how I do approach my interviews. I'm like, I had to really think about it. It's like, I think it's a pieces of who I am, but it came from a lot of those things and those opportunities. And I don't know if any of my coworkers right now are watching this, because some of them know about it. And so my day job, I'm kind of, are you familiar with the film Good Will Hunting that had Matt Damon and those guys? I kind of joke that my day job is my Good Will Hunting. It's Mark's Good Will Hunting, because in the sense, and I'm not a mathematician, but I just kind of have a physical related job that I do that maybe people don't think is like the most glamorous, because it's not the most glamorous job. But the people at work, I think some of them, they just looked at me, oh, there's Mark just doing this. And they may not even know my name. There he is, kind of, with a broom or a mop or whatever. And then the ones that start talking to me, and then they find out I do all this stuff outside of work, they're like, what? So you're credentialed with what? And you're going to be where? And they love it. They've been super supportive. I love the people that are at my office. But it's almost like being undercover a little bit of like, yeah, so let's see you pass judgment on me, because you probably think this is what I've done in my entire life. It's like, no, I do a lot of other things. And but then I've also found out we had some really artistic people on staff that I didn't know anything about. One guy he was a tour manager for Motley Crue for a while. So and he's done all kinds of drum stuff, and he knows all the local, musicians up here. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never, if I had not had heard him say I have rehearsal to do, because he had to go do a drum rehearsal with his band that he plays in. I'm like, oh, so you're a musician? Because I'm a musician myself. So then we start talking, and like, oh, dang. That's awesome. And it could be the same for you in terms of, and it might be the other way around too, that people know you from the arts, world that you're a part of. And it's, oh, so you have a what background? An attorney background, a law background. She's incredibly talented. That's awesome. Yeah. And let's see, Ove, you're asking, is there any news of your movie being released in the UK? Which movie are we talking about, Ove? Just to make sure that I'm on the right movie.
Tomiris, I think it's on Amazon in UK too, and on Google Play in UK as well. I think so.
Okay.
if it's Tomiris.
Yeah, if that's the one you're asking about, Ove, yeah, I'm kind of assuming it is. Asking on Blu-ray. Oh, that I don't know. Is it on Blu-ray in the UK?
I think you can order Blu-rays. I think yes, you can order Blu-ray and for Xbox and something like that. I don't know all the details, but I saw. I think yes, there's Blu-ray, there's Xbox, there's Google Play, there's Amazon, and there's one even on YouTube, but that one has like commercial breaks in it.
Oh.
I don't know if you want to watch that one because it's already kind of a long movie.
Yeah, so there you go. And I bet you, Ove, if you take a little bit of time and do a search, you'll kind of find out if you can find the right Blu-ray if that's what you're looking for. If you have a all-region player like I do, then you can watch them from anywhere in the world. So you could actually get the American run here and watch it over there, or what have you. I like the whole stuff that I buy. Yeah, Ove's like me. He likes physical media. He likes a collection.
Oh yeah, there's well, my friends were ordering from Amazon the DVDs that. Yeah, so they're
Mm-hmm.
you can order.
Yeah, for sure. And I'll keep that up there for longer. Well, AIZHAN, it was awesome talking with you and getting to know more about the film Tomiris, but also everything that you have such a wonderful energy to you. And I wish you every success in the world with everything you have coming up. Yeah, and if it happens to work out that our paths cross when you're up here in Seattle, then that would be awesome. And I'm not trying to be creepy or a stalker or anything weird like that. Just like, no, it's like, hey, I was the guy that interviewed you back in April.
It was really nice meeting you. Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you.
Fun.
Thank you for taking the time. And if you can do me a huge favor and just don't disconnect once I stop the live stream so I can talk to you offline. And then we'll call it a night. So, Ove, thank you for joining me. Anyone else that's watching, because I see there are people that are watching that are being shy that aren't in the chat. Thank you for joining us, and have a great weekend, everybody. And I'll see you. If you want to come back tomorrow at 3 p.m. Pacific, because I'll be back here in the virtual world. Thank you so much, and have a good night.